Happy VA Wednesday. So today we're going to talk about VA versus conventional. I've talked to a lot of veterans where they've said, well, I just did conventional because I have the money, so I didn't need to do VA. And I always go, oh, scream. I'm like, what? I'm like, here's the thing. There's so many myths and misconceptions about VA, so today we're going to clear up a few of them. If you're new to the channel, I'm a mortgage lender. My team can help you in 50 states. I've been ranked the #1 VA purchase loan officer in America for the last 2 years. Thanks to all of you guys, so please reach out. We want to be your lender. 786-933-2077. We waive our lender fee on VA loans. We're also happy to look at what your current lender's offering you to see if you're getting a good deal. Okay, VA versus conventional. So here's the thing. There's a myth that VA has all these additional restrictions and VA is harder to qualify for than conventional. That's not true. From an underwriting perspective, so just so you guys know, I do VA, I do conventional, I do FHA, I do jumbo, I do USDA. Up until about 6 years ago, I've been a lender for 18 years, the bulk of my business was conventional. So I know conventional and VA real well. VA is easier to qualify for from an underwriting perspective. It allows for lower credit scores, higher debt to income, also more make sense underwriting. Conventional is fairly rigid. You have to fit within the box for a conventional loan to get approved. The next thing people go is, well, with VA, a house has to be perfect. No, it doesn't. It just has to be in average or better condition. So if the house is falling down, yes, that's going to be a problem with VA, but it would be a problem with conventional as well. Well, wait a second. VA takes so much longer, conventional so much faster. No. Back in the day before technology, sure, there's a lot more forms with VA, but now that everything's DocuSign and done online and electronically, it's click, 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 click. Same. Okay. The only difference is that with conventional, you can rush the appraisal. VA, you can't. So VA appraisal, let's say you're in Houston, I would expect it back within 10 business days. I'd probably get it back within 7. I would expect a conventional appraisal with no rush back within 7 business days. That's it. Okay. Now, in fairness, in some parts of the country, VA requires a clear termite inspection. Conventional does not. But let me ask you this. Do you want to buy a house riddled with wood-boring beetles? No. And look, we do so much VA, like termite reports are rarely an issue. And there's so many parts of the country where there's termite bonds and all this other stuff, like it's rarely an issue. And if you're buying a house that has $20,000 or $30,000 worth of termite work to be done, yeah, VA is not going to close that until it's fixed. And with conventional, unless you have the money, I would be very afraid personally. Okay. So why would you do conventional? Sometimes I'll hear, well, conventional has lower rates. No, it doesn't. VA always has a lower rate unless the lender's ripping off veterans. I know that sounds horrible, but it's true. So the reason VA has a lower rate is because it's partially insured by the government. It's a lower risk loan. Rates are always based on risk. There is very few things safer than a VA loan from a lender's perspective. It's incredibly low risk. Conventional loans are higher risk. Their rates are higher because of that. But there's some lenders where they just jack up the VA rates because they don't really understand it or they don't know it. So you're like, well, the VA rates are so much higher. That's not normal. That's a red flag that lender's taking advantage of you. The next thing I hear is, well, VA has a funding fee. If you get any level of VA disability, it does not have a funding fee. Let me say that again. If you get any level of VA disability, there's no VA funding fee. The next thing I hear is, well, VA has 1 point origination. No, it doesn't. No. Lenders can charge you that, but lenders can charge you that with conventional as well. Well, VA loan fees are higher. No, they're not, guys. We waive our lender fee on VA, okay? If a lender's telling you VA is more expensive because of lender fees, they're full of, put in the word you want, okay? Just make it mean. So no, VA rates are going to be lower. VA fees should be lower, okay? The funding fee is the only thing. Now, if I'm looking at someone who's buying a house and they're putting down 0% with conventional, I can't even do that, okay? It's not a thing unless I'm doing down payment assistance. That's gonna have, silent seconds, higher rates, no good. VA, 0% down, I don't have mortgage insurance. So if you go, well, if I do conventional 5% down, I don't get VA disability, but I won't have the funding fee. You're gonna have mortgage insurance. You're gonna have mortgage insurance and the rate's gonna be higher. VA, if you wanna put 5% down, you have a reduced funding fee. It goes down to 1.5%, and there's no mortgage insurance, and the rate's lower, okay? So then people go, well, wait a second, Jen, what if I do 20% down conventional? Then it's better than VA, right? No, not if you're working with a lender that prices VA appropriately. So let's say you don't have VA disability, because that's usually where I see the argument is the funding fee. The funding fee, if you're putting down 20%, is 1.25%, okay? Conventional does not have a funding fee, but I've priced it out so many times. You can't touch the VA rate that you can get with 20% down versus conventional. Even if you buy it down 1.25%, you can't touch it. The rate's so much better over here. So it's like, what is your priority? If your priority is the lowest rate, it's gonna be VA, And if you're like, well, I don't want the funding fee, I'm happy to take a higher rate with conventional, that's your choice, okay? That is totally your choice, but you just have to be aware, like if you do apples to apples, of what is the rate with the 1.25% funding fee, if you're doing 20% down or really over 10 versus conventional, the rate, buying down the rate 1.2, 1.25, 1.25, this is still gonna win, okay? The other thing about VA that people don't recognize is that VA is the only loan type that has interest rate reduction loans. And what that is it's a refinance. You've got to wait about 7 months after closing, but if rates have gone down at least 0.5%, you can do a refinance with no appraisal and no documents. Here's the thing that's very important for my VA long-term investors, okay? They buy a house, they live there for a couple years, they refinance. You can refinance a VA property even if you don't live there with an IRRRL, with an interest rate reduction loan. You can't get cash out, but you can do a VA interest rate reduction loan, and the rate is so much better than if you were doing a conventional investment property. It's mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing. So overall, look, I don't have VA entitlement. My dad was a veteran, my grandfather was, I am not. So I don't have VA entitlement, but I'm telling you right now, if I was buying a house, I would be doing VA no matter what if I could. The benefits are so much greater than every other loan program. It's a true benefit. So if you've been hearing myths that, oh, it's hard or whatever nonsense you've been hearing, just know it's that. It's truly a benefit. It can put you in a better position. There's no mortgage insurance if you're doing a low down payment. There's 0 down required. And the rates on it are so much better. So I hope this video was helpful. Questions, comments, as always, feel free to reach out. We are here to support you on your journey. 786-933-2077.